Hi everyone, this is Dianne Devitt. Thanks for being with me today on Heads Up, where we interview icons and luminaries and all around fabulous people in the events industry. With me today is a colleague and friend, Paul Neuman, Chief Inspiration Officer of Newman's Kitchen. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Diane. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure always. You are one of my favorite, in case anybody wants to know.
Thank you.
Paul, you were with us before, and you spoke a little bit about how you grew up in the industry, fourth generation, fishmongers. I love that. You don't hear that term very often, by the way, unless you're in England.
I was ashamed of it for many years, and now I've come to really own it as my heritage. We used to say, you know, fish
As you
market,
should.
but fishmonger is really what we
what
we were,
right?
And it gets to the heart of, you know, the
it gets
process.
to the heart of what it is.
Yeah.
Listen,
there's no shame in it.
I trust my fish person, and I don't trust anyone else but him, just so you know. But anyway, and how you built up Newman's Kitchen, which is now a full-service catering and food service company, and wonderful that you fill so many niches, you know, in the industry, from conference centers to special events, which is something near and dear to both of our hearts. So what I'd like to ask you today is, you know, I know you were influenced by your grandfather and your father, but when did you have that aha moment for yourself of what you wanted to accomplish and where you wanted to take your passion?
It's a great question. There actually was an aha moment.
And I'm not including, you know, any personal things, but the food, okay? All right.
We'll stick with the food.
Right, okay.
I was working, it was 1977. I had just come back, I had just graduated college, and my parents would rent a house every year in the Hamptons, and we would spend time out there. So I went to the Amagansett Farmers Market.
I know it well.
Right.
Loved it, yep.
They had a mussel salad, and the mussel salad had a mustard dressing, pimentos, and parsley. Very simple, beautiful, plump, orange.
Gorgeous mussels.
Gorgeous mussels. And I looked at it and I said, I can do that. Now, we had made codfish cakes and chowders before at the fish market, so we had a history of cooking.
Right.
But the mussel salad, I said, this is simple. I can make this. And went back on Monday, whipped up a mustard vinaigrette, chopped up some parsley, some pimentos, steamed some mussels, put them in the aluminum trays, put it out front at $2 a pound or whatever it was.
Gone.
And Dad loved it because we were selling mussels that probably cost 20 cents a pound.
Right.
And selling them for $2 a pound.
Right, exactly.
And it was the first time where I said, I can take this creativity, this art school background, and turn it into dollars. It's a lot easier, by the way, to turn your art school background into food dollars than it is into art dollars.
Yeah.
It's a little harder to make it as an artist than it is as a chef or as a food entrepreneur.
Isn't that interesting?
So that was one of my aha moments. The later aha moments from the fish market were the things that I made that didn't sell, like sea robin stew. So I took sea robins, which are very unattractive little fish and hard to prepare, and I made a bouillabaisse out of it.
All right.
And it didn't sell. And it was one of those.
Well, were they whole?
Yeah, no, they were. It was just the bodies. But my
it's kind of like a fish head soup. You either go for it or you don't.
There are things that people won't buy.
Right, exactly.
You know, insects, not so much.
Not so
Chocolate
much.
covered, grasshoppers. I'm not ready for that.
Although, you know, not to distract, but you know, there was a whole show on now. There's a whole new product out, right?
There's a whole movement.
With the whole movement about eating protein and chocolate-covered grasshoppers and things.
Correct.
I'm not ready for that either.
Right. I mean, one of the things I learned in the fish market is that I could either educate people or I could make money, but I couldn't do both. So if I really wanted to be an educator and teach them about the wonders of fish and seafood, I should be teaching a class. But if I wanted to make money, I needed to put out a product that instantly someone could look at, recognize, understand how it would taste, and take a chance on me.
And take a chance on it, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that, I never knew that about the mussels.
Yeah.
That's an interesting
story.
story.
So that was one of my aha moments.
That was a good aha moment.
Yeah.
You know, so you made that recipe, and do you have a favorite recipe? Do you have how do you choose when I say to you, Paul, let me take you to dinner tonight, what's your favorite food?
Well, my favorite, you know, if you ask the question, what would be my last meal, it might very well be sushi. I mean, I adore well-made sushi. And when my son and I went to Japan 2 years ago, it was really a sushi and ramen eating tour.
Sushi pub crawl.
Yeah, it
Or a
was,
sushi-
yeah. And we went to Jiro. I don't know if you've seen Jiro Dreams of Sushi, but we went to this famous sushi restaurant, and we had a great time. So sushi is one of my favorite things. Right now, I'm going through an open-faced sandwich phase of my life.
No kidding.
So I'm buying a bread from the Scandinavian market in Grand Central, this unbelievable rye bread that's like a brick. I'm slicing it up, and it's become dinner for me. And I will make open-faced sandwiches with goat cheese and avocado, celery with remoulade, smoked salmon, and I'm just having fun.
You're just having fun with that.
And this is a phase. And my wife looks at me like, really? Like, aren't you done with this? But when I hit something that I like, I will sort of explore it almost like an art project. So I'm very much into this particular bread.
Right.
And then composing, building up from it, toasting it and building up from it. So right now, that's my favorite thing. I love, naturally, cooking fish and seafood and shellfish.
Right.
So some of the things I love cooking are fresh sturgeon, not smoked sturgeon. I love blowfish tails. I love
see
razor
that.
clams. These are things that I just love to make.
Right.
And it's not necessarily a recipe or preparation,
It's just something
but
you
these
like.
are ingredients that feel very close to my heart and my soul.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know I'm always perplexed when people, especially being in New York, you know, when people say, choose your favorite restaurant. I say, it's not my favorite restaurant, it's what I feel like tonight.
Right.
And I could have, you know, I could have Ethiopian for lunch and I could have Greek
Right.
for dinner. It
Right.
just, what is, we
That's
get
right.
so spoiled that way. But,
It's
you know, I
unbelievable.
did try that Scandinavian bread, but I had it with cheese and cucumbers,
Right.
which someone turned me on to, the
Right.
original. I
Right.
forget what it's called, but it's delicious. But
S'more bread, I think,
S'more bread.
is the description of the open-faced sandwich.
Right. Well, I'm going to hold you to cooking this blowfish for me one day. But
Yeah.
but just to move on, like, do you see that when you go to an event, for example, is there any event that stood out in your mind that had a fabulous menu? Because, you know, it's like I'm an event producer. How many times I've been in the events industry, and my father, speaking of parent, would say to me, especially going to a family event, just remember you're not working.
That's very hard. People invite us to dinner and they say, we really didn't want to invite you to dinner because
Exactly.
we're afraid of what you're going to be
Just
looking
remember you're not working, Dianne.
Right.
Just go and enjoy it. And so, but I think to myself, like, did you ever go in or leave something and say, what a fabulous experience that you weren't responsible for?
Nothing is jumping out. I have to say, I think New York is filled with amazing caterers and very, very talented caterers. I think we're in one of the things I really love about our business is it's very competitive, and we're really all at a certain level excellent.
You
at
demand
it.
the best.
So I have seen great food, whether it's hors d'oeuvres or stations or plates, from many of our competitors, and I will go back and say, this was fabulous. We
Right.
need to take a look at that.
Right.
There's no single event that jumps out at me, but one of the things that we bring to it that I think a lot of other caterers are doing now is we build our own props. So we create the environment in which the food exists. So we're trying to make sure that the food that we make for a particular client looks the way that only it only looks that way from us, because everything around it above the tabletop
Right.
is something we've created.
Well, you know that you eat with your eyes first, and we know that when you have a theme, that to take that theme and to incorporate the
Right.
food is critical for the success of the event. Because in my sensory work, I know that too. For example, if you're listening to French music and eating Italian food, the food does not taste as
Oh,
good.
is that true?
That's
That's
true.
fabulous.
Because
I
you
love
have
that.
two
Yeah, a
conflicting
disconnect. Right.
senses working, and one will always dominate.
Right.
So you know, you brought up a good point about our industry and all the talent that we have, which we do. And you're right, the competitiveness keeps everybody
It
on
keeps
its
us
edge.
sharp.
And I also think, like, you look at something new, you create something that's an inspiration, they create, so it keeps evolving, right?
It's like hitting the ball back over the net.
So in the industry, which both of us have been involved with a long time in the events industry, you are a past president of what's now called ILEA, International Live Events Association. I'm the president-elect going into next year.
Mazel tov.
Yes, thank you. What do you think about the industry right now in terms of where it is and where it could go? And I'm very proud to be a member of an association.
Right.
I'll say that.
Yeah.
I've always been a proponent, whether it's MPI, Meeting Professionals, or this NACE, right, catering executives. I believe in them, you know? What was your experience with it?
Well,
What do you
I've
think?
been a member or participated as a president program director with ILEA, formerly known as ISES.
Yes, we know that. Right.
For, I don't know, 7 to 10 years. And what I love about it is helping young people to get grounded, to understand. We put our people into ILEA now, so they're exposed to competitors, they're getting ideas. We're helping the industry to grow by growing our youngest members and exposing them to what's out there.
true.
So I think it's critical.
You and I met.
Exactly.
You and I met through
Exactly.
through the association,
Exactly.
right?
We've just joined an organization called Leading Caterers of America, which is a highly selective group of caterers, the largest caterers in each market, and we meet periodically, a couple of times a year, regionally and nationally, to share ideas. So it's basically like ILEA, but for the largest caterers in the country.
But you're sort of, you've narrowed it down, which
We've
is
narrowed it down.
fabulous. And this is the thing is people outside of the industry don't realize the multi-billion-dollar industry we are and the art form. And somebody catered the Super Bowl. I was thinking of my friends in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
So, so one question for you is on food and on catering is what do you see are the trends right now?
The trends. Well, I think there are ingredient trends, there are presentation trends. So cauliflower is trending. Kale was trending. Kale's happened already. Cauliflower is now everywhere, and in good ways. People,
Well, they're cutting it this way, aren't they? Like the steak?
Steaks.
Right, exactly. Right.
So it's cauliflower steaks. I did a little research before we came today, and sorghum apparently is trending. Sorghum is
I don't
a
even
grain.
know.
Exactly.
Tell me what this is. I've
It's
heard
like
of it.
it's like a cross between corn and wheat. I'm getting that wrong, but basically it's a grain, and it's out there. And it was the largest sweetener in the 19th century United States. It was used as a sweetener. So it's almost like farro came back or has come back. Things quinoa 3 years ago, quinoa was trending.
Wow.
So in terms of ingredients, those are two that I can pick out. In terms of food trends, African food, African flavors are starting to trend. I'm a firm believer that Cuban food is going to be on the rise because everyone's going to Cuba now.
Right, exactly.
So I believe that Cuban food is on the rise. So what we try to do is make sure we're not moving towards trends for the sake of being trendy. Trendy to me is not a word I love. Being on trend we never want to be cutting edge at the expense of the quality or the authenticity. So we're looking for what resonates with us that's out in the world that may be new and different. Or how can we take something that's been popular and put a
little twist to
on
it, right?
So one of the things we always do is take sweet and turn it into savory or savory into sweet. So for instance, we would do a savory rugula. So we'll do a sun-dried tomato and olive rugula. We'll take we've had a lot of fun making sliders out of whoopie pies or making whoopie pies into sliders. So we want to, one of the things we want to do always is surprise you in some way so that whatever you see, it almost takes you off your game a little bit and oh, that's a sweet slider. I get it. Look at that. And so we're always looking to be on message, authentic, and find something that really resonates with us. I don't want to use sorghum just because it's trending.
Right.
I want to use sorghum because we found an application for it and it makes sense and it fits into our program.
It's not going to be like made with sorghum, made with everything. Well, Paul, that was great. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Paul Neuman, Chief Inspiration Officer at Newman's Kitchen, sharing us the insight of what's on trend right now. All right? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diane.